The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello, my name is Marina Sprocki-Spriggs, and I want to welcome you to Always Another Way podcast. I have a master's in professional counseling, and I am the IPPY Award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I am trained in clinical hypnosis, and I write positive divorce advice for the Huff Post. And this podcast speaks to out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope in Always Another Way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, this is probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, tastes can and do change. And I am super excited about today's guest. And I think I've mentioned before, I love people and I meet people all kinds of places. And there's a place in Dallas called the Refuge Meditation Studio. It is just a one-of-a-kind, amazing place in Fair Park that has meditation, sound meditation, which I do on Tuesday nights, Friday nights, and Saturdays. There's astrological meditation, crystal meditation, yoga nidra, deep stretch, Reiki, other sound baths, all kinds of workshops. It's really a super amazing place. But also the people that go there. First of all, probably the coolest people in Dallas that go there, but also the most interesting, talented, non-judgmental, and just vibe out of this world. And I met my next guest there. The Refuge is also a place that has, it's art and music. There's lots and lots of artwork up, and there's just some amazing artwork there. And then sitting down one day and, it's my next guest, this absolutely amazing artist. So her name is Kelsey Anne Heimerman. She is a classically trained visionary oil painter. Her unique gift to portray visual language has been nurtured and guided by a family of artists since she was 5 years old. She approaches painting as a primary form of thinking with limitless possibilities, which consistently produce her innovative work. The observance of people through art history, dogmas, belief systems, and culture-driven metrics often influence the work. These mythologies and systems are met with a modern technological twist that create a hybrid from ancient patterns and mysticism with contemporary glitches, molecule-like structures, and portraiture. Her early self-made success contributed to her entrepreneurial spirit and ability to imbue her monumental art with a futuristic way of thinking and elaborate imaginative skills. In 2015, she opened her independent art studio in Dallas and first received recognition from the community by winning an artist grant from the Nasher Sculpture Center. Woo-woo. And the following year, she held a self-made solo exhibition and sold out. And this allowed her to travel to different countries and tropical islands to explore and calibrate her visual inventory that influences the work she's creating today. She operates both inside and outside of the art world, consistently making it into the International Gallery and Museum expositions, as well as retaining her independently ran studio gallery that pushes the boundaries of connecting art and people in new and innovative ways. Through dedicated discipline of evolving her knowledge and painting skills, Heimerman's dream is for the work to influence others on a larger platform, and she consistently reaches out to connect with new people who share the mission of making the world more educated and beautiful. And welcome to the show, Kelsey.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here.
Yes.
Just such a wonderful, beautiful person and so
thank you.
Amazingly artistically talented.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's cool. So when did all of this, from an artistic family, but when did this begin your desire to get into this?
Yeah, I was really lucky to come from a lineage of artists. So it was really kind of nurtured from a really early age. I always loved painting and was always drawn to it. And I realized that I was talented at it kind of when I was a teenager, and realized that like, you know, other kids weren't going home and making paintings. So it was kind of gave me this like little niche of being an original person that kind of fed into the whole thing later on. And then I went to university and studied art for a little bit before I left that kind of academic system and opened up a small business, a coffee shop in Denton, Texas. And that really taught me a lot about business, which kind of bled into opening up my own independent studio, which has just been a whole great adventure, and really has really allowed me to be independent and creative and fierce in a different way. So that's kind of a short synopsis of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then so, you know, all these things, because it just sounds so like just casual and just happenstance the way you said it. It's like, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. That sounds wonderful. But were there any kind of like obstacles in the way of doing things, or maybe anybody, you know, you came from a supportive family, and I think I was telling you like a little bit different than, ooh, artist, like you're not going to do well at that, or you can't do this. Any of those type of things that came in, or?
There was definitely financial obstacles to overcome. It hasn't always been easy to be an oil painter. It's an expensive medium, and you know, it took a lot of kind of dedication and being frugal to get to that point where I had the sellout exhibition and could kind of, that finally gave me breathing room to really think outside the box and think in another way and explore what I was interested in. I've always been fascinated just like with my own mind and my own internal world, and I've always been kind of driven to push the boundaries and think outside of the box. And I think with the internet, it's just been like such a blessing for me in the studio to be able to like listen to podcasts and audiobooks and explore all these topics of philosophy and metaphysics and science and feminism and technology that I'm interested in. So being frugal actually allowed me to sit in front of the easel and like create the work. And I think that is the most, that is the thing about being an artist, is you have to make the work and put the time into actually putting the paint on the canvas and making sure that the imagery that you're working with is something that is going to be kind of this thread in the tapestry of imagination that is humanity. I think that's so important. I believe like that's what we are now, is just kind of the latest version of people as a whole, and it's such a beautiful and amazing thing, and I have a deep respect for it. And so when I come to the easel and I work with kind of these icons and archetypes, and when I'm distorting the portraiture and thinking about humankind and what we are as people, I take a big responsibility, and I really dedicate myself to putting the time into the work to make sure that it is the latest evolution of art history and who we are.
I absolutely love that.
Yes, thank you.
And so then I just was thinking of something while you were saying that, is actually to get there, to do it, to actually, without just, you know, there's the ideas and just lots of creative people, and there's, you know, tons of people that are a variety of creative, and then some actually come to the table with their stuff, do it, put it out, think like this. And then maybe there's, you know, speaking to some other people listening where they're creative, but a block, or no, I can't do this, I wouldn't be as good, or maybe I couldn't do something. What is it that helps you say, keep from that, you know, I am this and I've done this, but to keep going back again and trying more, versus just being talented with ideas versus talented with product?
For me, I have an intense fascination with people and with who we are and what we are, and that is the driving force of the work, is to kind of rediscover and reimagine and like explore what exactly our human history is and what maybe the future is. My whole kind of slogan behind all my presence online and everything is mastering visionary worlds. So like mastering as an action, not necessarily that I am the master, but like it is a goal to master something. Visionary as a word of someone who sees the world in maybe a special way, maybe a brighter way or a unique way, but can also take that world and those visions and project it onto for me, a canvas, and make it something special and new and original. And worlds as the conduit between like the internal self and the exterior. So really just like being a bridge in between those two, because I think we are just a tiny piece of a multitude of worlds, and like even you and I sitting here is like two worlds colliding between each other, where like I have my own internal world and so do you, and so does the studio, and so does everybody that's listening. We all have our own like hopes and dreams and problems and families and all the things that we carry with us, and like it's an amazing thing to be able to bring those together in the same space, even if it is through internet waves and
right?
Connecting.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I believe that too.
Yeah.
And so, gosh, what did I want to see? So viewing this world from this beautiful aesthetic standpoint, and I know you just went to Italy and saw all your wonderful pictures.
Yes.
And how do you like versus, maybe somebody else when you're looking at things? What all's kind of going on, when you see, because there's, Duomo after delicious food, kind of separate that out and kind of put that together, this internal, external.
Yeah, for me, the world is just a visual delight. It is a complex, beautiful masterpiece in and of itself that is at the same time like growing infinitely and decaying. And it's fabulous to see it. And the way I literally see the world, I could pick apart colors and gradients and shapes and shadows and light and like tell you how I would paint them. But when I'm designing the work, I am looking through art history, and I'm looking at our contemporary times, and I'm looking at the issues and the problems. And instead of being direct and talking about these things like rising sea levels and feminism and all the conversations that are going on right now, I try to make the work a light of the conversation. So, it holds on to these old archetypes that I see through lots of different world religions and cultures and ancient artifacts, but it kind of puts it in this like contemporary frame where all these cultures are blending together, because that's where I feel like we are now. That's where I feel like the evolution of painting is now. It's not segmented into the Renaissance era and the Egyptians and the Mayans, where all these ancient cultures have like kind of a special style of how they drew or painted the world that they were seeing, where now it's global, we're connected. So I take kind of all those icons and archetypes and put them in the same frame. It's like a mashup of right now, which I believe is kind of the beginning of everything being connected.
I love that. And you can tell in your work, you can really tell it has all of these different elements to it that's not just something like an oil on canvas, but has like maybe 3-4 dimensional.
Oh, yeah.
5th, 6th, 7th, is there an 8th dimension? Something. Yeah. But we've got some work that Ziggy's put up. So for those of you, you can see it on video, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on live stream. So you can see the video that goes with, and we'll tell you at the end where you can just look at all of her stuff. But you're also, you're young, and you're obviously a woman. How is that, being in the art world, being young, being a woman, coming up against all these things, and then also what sort of dictates the art world? How do you kind of work with that?
Yeah, I think we are in kind of this bittersweet spot where a lot of things have come to light and it's changing. And, obviously there's a history of, male artists being in the museums and these major collections. getting the white glove treatment of, you know, their whole collection after they pass away. There's a lot more male artists represented in that scene, but I think it's changing, and I'm so happy to be alive right now and to be in this time period where it's kind of this shift. And, you know, I like to look at it through a really positive lens. It can kind of almost give me an extra edge in the art scene now, to be a woman. So I love it. I think it's an interesting time, and it's something to talk about and something to be positive about, and that the balance between the masculine and the feminine will eventually kind of harmonize. And I think we're starting to see that, and that's amazing.
Cool. I like it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, so I guess I want to know, like, what do you think that your art says maybe about you and about the world? So if somebody was looking, or let us in a little bit more about, and you've kind of talked a bit about it, but about you, and as it goes to when you put that on there, what are you saying?
Well, first off, the art is not about me. It's made by me for the people. And
good distinction.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, you might see a self-portrait in the collection, but that's really just because I'm the only model that's around at the time to paint from. So sometimes those studies end up happening. But I think painting it feeds all the major questions that I have about my life. It feeds me philosophically and spiritually and emotionally and financially, and all the big questions I have about how can I help more people, or how can I get this message out, or how can I master a craft? How do I spend my time? Like, I think that is such a big one. I am really lucky just to be able to wake up every day and paint for a living. And it's been an amazing journey to kind of get to this point. It was always my dream. And really the last, 4 or 5 years, I've been able to manifest it and wake up every day with, few things on my calendar, except to be in the studio and to be making the work and doing the research and hanging out with friends like you to do podcasts. Like, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It feels like a beautiful life. And it just has been an infinite motivator for all these questions I have within my mind. I think it can help people because I think imagery has the power to heal people.
Oh, yeah.
I think when you stand in front of a masterpiece in a museum and you get that moment of transcendence, I think that is like the true mark of a masterpiece. When you can kind of like let your mind soften and you are just looking at like color and composition. And really, when you break it down, it's just like a pigment on some kind of cloth, like when you really look at it on a micro level, but it's allowing your mind to kind of slow down and like be in another world. That to me is transcendence, and like the ability for art and music and poetry to kind of do that for the human soul and the human psyche. I think it's healing, and it's been a part of our humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. And I think it's a huge blessing to be one of those people to help kind of push the world forward, or to hold the world in like a sacred way.
I love that. And I just, like, I visualize that too when I look at like just some of the art that I've bought and just what I just really love about it, and just looking at it and seeing all those just beautiful things and to each person, and I'm sure maybe with your work too, you'll have something in mind while you're creating this vision you're putting forth, and maybe somebody else sees that, or maybe they see something else and kind of take it on their own.
Oh, yeah. And I think that happens all the time. And when people come to the studio and they'll ask me, oh, what is this about? Because the work is pretty crazy. It's multi-layered, it's different, it's luscious, it's buttery strokes, it's pixelated, it's stretched out, it's morphing. And people ask me what it's about, and I always tell people, it is whatever you see, because I don't want to tell anybody what to think or how to feel. I want to provide a foundation for your mind to wonder. And that's it. And wherever it wanders and however you relate is you. That's your experience with something. That's your experience with this world, the visionary world. So like, yeah, I think it's important to kind of let people to have the space to let their own mind wander and have the exercise of imagination.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I remember I was thinking about this too, and when you were talking about just the space that you're at now, where you can really have this room to create and do other things that are all influential. And you were talking, we were in a class together at the Refuge, and you said you did this like little ritual in the morning.
I do.
You
My life
that?
is full of rituals.
Oh yeah, will you tell us about that? That was
Sure.
just like so exciting.
I wake up every morning and I get down on my hands and knees and I say thank you for my life, my breath, my friends, and my family. And that mantra kind of started for me about a year ago. I had a life-changing experience, and so I experienced this immense call to be grateful for the things that I have, and for kind of this new transition. So I wake up and I say that mantra, and it just kind of allows me to remember that just being in a body is such an abundant gift.
Right.
And it reminds me to be grateful for the people who have supported me and for my family. And sometimes, you know, that mantra will bleed into, you know, other things that I want to say at that time as my life shifts and evolve, you know, things, people that I've met or things that have happened. And I just like take a small moment to appreciate what my life is, and then I go downstairs to the studio and I say, hello, house. And I say hello to the house and to the studio, and I stretch out my arms, you know, and I just like say hello to everybody, because all my precious things are living there and all the artwork's there. And like, for me, in a silly way and maybe a really deep way, it is like alive and with us. And I think it's important to kind of like imbue things sometimes with that energy, because I think energy kind of passes through everything in that way.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and they've done, you know, experiments on plants and things and little microbes where you're really nice and then you're really mean.
Yeah,
and
it makes a difference.
Makes a difference, totally.
Yeah.
And then I'm wondering, do you do music or anything? Do you play music while you?
I play the piano and the guitar a little bit, and sometimes the steel drum.
Sweet.
But yeah, I listen to music while I paint and podcasts and audiobooks. Yeah, that's pretty much the jam.
So what else do you kind of want to talk about or tell our listeners about yourself, your style, your work? Just some interesting little tidbits of like, you know, of a total, and I love the out of the box game changers, because it really does take someone to go for it with their art. And I mean, I think your art's absolutely beautiful, but different and cool to say, I'm just going to do it this way.
Yeah.
The way I see it, and not because somebody says you've got to do it this way.
Yeah. Well, I'd say the major difference about me is that I'm independent right now, and I've been independent my whole career so far. I've worked with some galleries, but I haven't really signed big contracts, and I've done that purposefully because of the way that the art world is. I mean, typically galleries take 50%. So financially, I just like wanted a different way to kind of approach the art world and to make it sustainable. And so that like it could bleed into my future. And I have to say, you know, I will sign with a gallery one day when it's the right place, you know, and I do have some proposals and stuff out now, but the being independent and being kind of the one-stop shop has given me so much abundance in my life, because I've learned not only to be an oil painter, but to be a great marketer and to do the shipping and delivery and to have a custom framer and to do, you know, the whole gallery scene. Like, you can come to my studio in Dallas and you can have the gallery experience, and like, but it's different. I'm doing it in a different way, where we sit down and have tea or a glass of wine or something, and like we have small bites, and it's kind of, it feels like a home in there. And there's, you know, $150,000, $200,000 worth of artwork on the walls, and you get to walk around and experience each piece with me, which is not the typical experience you're going to get when you walk into these galleries that represent a multitude of people. So I think I'm doing it in a different way in that sense, where it's independent.
I love that. I'm gonna come over and do that.
Yes.
And what I like about that too, because I've gone to like galleries and like in Santa Fe, and then go in and look at stuff, and then depending on how you're dressed or your looks, but I don't judge people by that stuff because you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
And that being said, but just and it doesn't feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Or with art, but to come in and see something that really I think art is very intimate.
Yeah.
And especially the pieces that you just connect with, that you want to have in your home, that is going to be staring at you and at anybody who comes in there, to like have an opportunity to know the artist who has made the work that you're going to have, and then to just be in the presence of it. I mean, what a gift.
Yeah, I have to say it's really fun for me too. I love having people over and meeting new people. And I mean, sometimes it's as simple as me just being at a coffee shop and chit-chatting in the morning over a cappuccino, and I find somebody interesting and we're in the neighborhood, and I say, oh, would you like to come see some paintings? And, maybe this person I find out later is someone really successful, and they end up being a collector. And like after they've spent 3 or 4 hours just in the studio chit-chatting and drinking tea and hanging out, I mean, they email me back and they're just so grateful for the experience to kind of have like a shift in their day. And for me, like, I love doing that all the time, like that's kind of my life. I'm either in the studio or maybe at a little event, or I'm like trying to get people to come to the studio and like hang out with me and chit chat.
How fun. Oh my gosh.
It's really fun. And like, I can see how exciting it is for people to have that experience in their day. And it's really fun to share it. And it's intimate and kind of small right now. I've had some interesting accomplishments along the way that I'm grateful for.
Go ahead and just like pat your own back and tell us some good things. Yeah.
I mean, I won a grant from the Nasher Sculpture Center, which was
huge.
Amazing.
Yeah, that place is like, whoa.
Yes, we love the Nasher. And, I've shown with these other galleries in Dallas. I have some pieces at the Joel Cooner Gallery, who sells these amazing antiques to the DMA, pieces from temples and old samurais and Buddhas. And he's just been such a fabulous mentor in my life. So, yeah.
And she's under 30.
And I'm under 30.
That's super impressive.
I'm very ambitious.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And
I'm also pretty sober, which I would say is a huge part of my practice and not something that you will really find in the art world that often.
Well, yeah, can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I mean, yeah, that makes, because I was drunk for a long time.
Yeah.
And then just wasted time in bars and bars and bars, and could have written many more books or done things, but no, talking shit with people, not remembering, but thinking it's great. And
yeah, I did the
wasn't
same.
painting it in a museum, that's for sure.
I did the same for a little bit until I kind of just like
got smart early,
woke up and realized that I'm so full of energy and life, and I love my consciousness. And once I kind of started fading alcohol out of my life, I really appreciated my energy levels and like who I am inside. And it has just given me this incredible focus and dedication and ability to get all my things done.
Amazing.
Not that I wasn't
what a clear mind will
done
do
before, but yeah, something to mention.
Yeah,
just to graze over.
I love that. Well, that's, I mean, super, super important. And now more than, ever, because I think I did a little podcast on alcohol and how just prevalent it is everywhere, and the pressure to drink. And especially in college, it's like training grounds for the drunk Olympics, but in reality, it's not helpful. I mean, ask anybody that you do. Take 6 vodka sodas. That is not a performance enhancer.
Yeah. Well,
for anybody.
I think there's definitely a and I don't want to go into this too much, but I think as far as substances are concerned, it's a pretty boring one. It's pretty dull. Yeah. And I think it's called a spirit for a reason. Yeah. And that people should be careful with it. And that it's the death of 1,000 paper cuts over time.
I know this to be true as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So rituals. I have all these little rituals in my life. The waking up in the morning and the ones in the evening, and just being mindful and being present and having gratitude and working hard. That's a huge part of it. You know, if you want to be successful, you have to work hard. Oh, yeah. So just putting in the time and being kind.
I love all of that. Yeah, oh my gosh, I think, well, we want to know, like, where can everybody find you, your art? Sure. Come over, see your stuff.
You can find me online. You can just Google Kelsey Anne Heimerman and it'll pull up my website. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as C Kelsey Paint, like C Spot Run.
And we'll have all those in the show notes too, just for you to look up as well.
And you can buy prints online. You can buy books online that are signed. You can come to the studio in Dallas and see the artwork in person. I have exhibitions like 2-3 times a year. So right now for this year, I'm finished. So I'm just working on new work. But there's always exhibitions to kind of keep an eye out for.
I love that.
Yes.
And just what just a wonderful, like, just bright light of a person you are, and so incredibly talented and inspirational. Just for anybody out there who's got, like, just a dream of something that you have a talent in, and to just completely go for it. And I really do believe that positive attitudes, focusing on what you can control, not on everything that you cannot, but this graciousness, gratitude, does lead you to all of these beautiful places and Exhibit A.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you so much for being on the show. And for all of you listening, you know there is always another way.